Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the closing bell on the Stock Movers Report. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Scarlet Fu.
261 to the upside at the close, 238 to the downside in the S&P 500. So even though, Scarlet, as the S&P 500 fell, more stocks in the index did move higher.
And that shows up in the IMAP as well. 7 out of the 11 sectors finished in the green, 4 finishing down. But the ones that did finish down, consumer discretionary, tech, and communication services, they house the Mag 7 names, and they are, of course, the bigger sectors, more heavily weighted sectors. Energy was the best performer, gaining 0.8%, moving higher along with oil prices. All right, taking a look at the stocks that performed the best in the S&P 500 and in the U.S. today. Well, at the top of the S&P 500, analog devices to the upside of 6.3%. Best performer in a percentage basis in the S&P 500. The company did report results earlier today. Adjusted earnings per share, the forecast for the fourth quarter came in above estimates. The guidance beat the average analyst estimate. The CEO and chair, Vincent Roche, said that, quote, while tariffs and trade fluctuations are creating market uncertainty, demand for analog devices products remains robust. And Hertz also in the green today, shares climbing after a report that the company will start selling used cars on Amazon Autos, up close to 6% on the day today. This is Amazon Autos' first fleet dealer. Here are some details. Customers can browse Hertz car sales listing on Amazon Autos and finish their purchase online and then pick up their car at Hertz car sales locations. The rollout not all over the U.S. It'll start at Dallas, Houston, L.A., and Seattle. The company plans to expand to Hertz car sales 45 locations nationwide. A reminder that some of these rental car companies are the largest sellers of used cars out there. And Guess shares absolutely surging today. The company going private in a $1.4 billion deal with Authentic Brands Group. It's in partnership with the co-founders Maurice and Paul Marciano. And CEO Carlos Alberini. Shares up more than 26% today. Authentic Brands is going to acquire a majority stake in Guess's intellectual property, while Guess Management will continue to run the business and own the operating company. Once again, Guess shares up more than 26%.
All right, and for the decliners, Target was one of those maybe surprising decliners of the day, falling 6%. They had a hotly anticipated earnings report that actually was pretty good. They maintained their guidance, most of the results beating estimates, but the retailer's pick for an internal CEO appointment did seem to offset those better than expected results. So we did see that stock falling over 10% on an intraday basis and then closing the day down over 6%. I'm also watching Estee Lauder. This is the third day of declines for the makeup cosmetics company. Closed the day down about 4%. The company said that it has hired external advisors to conduct a review of the brands it owns, La Mer being one of those, in a bid to accelerate a turnaround after years of sales declines. The CEO said
that's like the little facial serum that costs like $1,000.
Yes, it costs a couple $100 for like a little thing of moisturizer.
I was like, maybe there's something I'm missing out on. I didn't notice the difference.
They never give out samples ever.
Yeah, you must have purchased.
Well, you know what you can do. You go to Bloomingdale's across the street and use their samples there.
Okay,
no, that's gross.
Yeah, everyone's sticking their finger in there.
If you want to save money, you got to think outside the box.
Anyway, for Estee Lauder, the CEO said the company is rethinking its portfolio. Now I'm thinking about moisturizer in order to focus on our highest return opportunities over the medium to long term. We'll share updates in due course. That's from Estee Lauder. So check back in on that company. And then finally, James Hardie. This was a really big drop, worst drop since 2001. The building materials maker falling 34%. They reported net sales that missed analyst expectations. And they also warned of weak demand for repairs and new construction in North America. Really a downbeat outlook here on the U.S. housing market.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal, not phenomenal in a bad way, report here. But I mean, we paid a lot of attention to that, and that kind of leads us to this idea of macroeconomic conditions and whether the Fed might actually potentially come to the rescue or whether they even need to. We did get the FOMC minutes a little bit earlier today, and maybe it kind of ratified the idea that well, rates might not actually go anywhere. In fact, the curve, the Treasury curve today, pretty much steady, right around where it's been. You did see just modest movements to the downside here, but this has been a Treasury market that's been in a bit of a holding pattern. Of course, waiting for Jay Powell's speech on Friday and the official FOMC meeting, which concludes on September 17th.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.